Hello YouTube, Captain Mac here, and welcome to our next flight by request. This one's coming to you from Ali B over at Mac Air, and he's requested a flight with Transavia or Transavia Airlines, I'm not really sure how you say it, from Schiphol from Amsterdam, I could say Amsterdam, over to Innsbruck. The infamous LOWI Innsbruck Airport. And Innsbruck happens to be one of our hubs at Mac Air. In fact, all of our hubs are a little bit different than what your typical virtual airlines have for their hubs. We've got, I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but I know we got Thessaloniki over in Greece. I think that's how you say it. And then you've got LOWI there, or LOWI, which is of course Innsbruck. My brain doesn't want to work right now. I think San Francisco is one of them. I'm sure some people have used San Francisco. And then we've got our training hub is over in Phoenix at Phoenix Sky Harbor and so on. So if you get an opportunity, hop on over to the website there at macairvirtual.com if you're interested in seeing where our hubs are. And of course, if you haven't signed up for Mac Air, well, why not? We got the greatest thing going. That was a great view of the terminal there, by the way. I do not have the add-on scenery for Amsterdam's airport. I hope to get it eventually because I'm sure we're going to do a lot of flights in and out of here. It's a really neat and unique airport, so we'll definitely do more flights here. I do, however, have the add-on scenery for Innsbruck from Orbix, so I'm really excited about that. I've taken a look at it. It looks absolutely fantastic, so it should make our trip here much more exciting. That being said, specifically it was requested that we fly the Eastern localizer approach with the circle to land option on runway 8. So I'm going to double check the weather and make sure that it works for that. If it does not, we're using active sky, so I will make the adjustment that's necessary so that we can fly that approach. So that is the famous approach where you're basically flying right along the side of the mountains, and then sort of at the last minute there you make a diving right turn for the runway. So should be a lot of fun in our 737 here. It's going to be a lot of hand flying on the approach. Hopefully we won't mess it up. And other than that, I think we're pretty much ready to go. Now, as has become my practice, the aircraft is pretty much in a state that's ready for push and start. Now, I did make one mistake on this one. You guys have explicitly asked, hey, I like doing this. It's more like receiving the aircraft like you would in the real world, but we definitely want to see the programming of the FMC. Well, I got ahead of myself and I programmed it, but we're still going to go through it so we can take a look at what's actually in there in the flight plan and all that. But typically what we will do in the future, because there is a full flight tutorial on the PMDG 737 NGX, look in the top right, you should see a little info thing there. You can go to that tutorial if you haven't seen it. But either way, the point is what we'll do is we'll come in with the aircraft basically in a powered up state. It does not have the APU on. We're using ground power, and everything's ready to go, and then we'll program the FMC and make all the final preparations for push and start. Since I already programmed the FMC today, we're going to hop in and we're going to take a look at what the flight plan is and how it's laid out. And what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and assume that we were doing the walk around and our first officer programmed the FMC just to sort of make it more fun. So let's hop into the aircraft here and take a look at what we got. So again, as you can see, everything's powered up. APU is not running. We're on ground power right now. We've gone through all of our checklists here. If I haven't already popped those up, then you should see those popping up right now. We've taken care of our flight planning, cockpit preparation. All of that good stuff is done. All of our pre-flight stuff is ready to go except for starting the APU. Now, again, what you guys want to see is you want to see the programming of the FMC, and I do apologize that I got ahead of myself and did it on this one, and the only reason I didn't reset it is because you have to shut down the sim and restart it in order to do that, and I just didn't want to do that. So we would start out here on our ident page, of course, make sure that we've got the right air rack cycle, make sure we've got the right aircraft, all of that good stuff. We've done that. Do our position initialization. That's already been taken care of. We don't need to put a reference airport or anything in here. Everything's done as far as aligning the IRS and all that. Then we go to our route page, and you can see that it was a company route, EHAM to LOWI, and that's the flight number over at Mac Air. We're looking to find a way to change our flight numbers so that we don't have these really long flight numbers, but that's just something that's in the works. And then you've got our route is all laid out in there. Again, it was a company route that I planned in PFPX, so all of this was done for us. We didn't have to go in here and do this. And we'll talk about that discontinuity here in just a minute. Then goes our takeoff page. Now for takeoff reference and performance, for all of our performance, I put in like the cruise wind and all of that stuff. We went with takeoff 2 on this one because we've got tons of runway to work with and we're really light at about 11,000 pounds of fuel. So even though we've got a full PAX load, we're light on our fuel, so we should be good on that. Got our center of gravity and all that stuff in there. More interesting though, of course, is the legs and how all of that sets up. So we are taking the Rendy 1E. Let me double check the flight plan here. The Rend 1E departure. Okay, and that's this guy right here. And that's going to be off of runway 18 left. And then we'll continue on course from there until we reach our arrival, which is going to be the Tulsi 3A arrival. And that's going to take us all the way to our transition for our approach, which is that RTTNB. That's where we transition onto our approach, and it's going to take us onto the localizer east approach for runway 26. However, we're going to take that down, each of these waypoints, and when we brief this approach, we'll go over this again, but each of our waypoints here down to 90 LOC, and then ML26 is actually our point where we break off to make the circling approach around to runway 8. And I put a custom waypoint in here, ML201, just to give us sort of a visual reminder and the direction we're supposed to turn to. So ML201, I believe it's 230 degrees, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's on the approach chart, so when we get to that point we'll brief that. And so that's just a reminder for us that that's our turn point and what we're turning to, and then it's all hand flying and vectors from there anyway. And that's why there's a route discontinuity here. And then it shows runway 26 because obviously we're not actually going to land on runway 26. So again, I do apologize that I already went ahead and set up the FMC, but you basically see what we got there, and of course in the future I'll do a better job of remembering that the programming of the FMC is part of what you guys want to see. So with that being said, let me just do my final prep here real quick, and then we'll come back on here and we'll push and start. Alright, so before we can do anything on our push and start, we need to go ahead and get the APU fired up. So let's hop up top here. It's a very simple process. Left click once and then twice, and the APU is going to start spinning up. And I probably could have done this off screen just so that you know, we don't sit here and stare at it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to edit out this little bit here where it's spinning up, and then we'll come back once the APU is up and running. Alright, we got the APU up and running, not running. Let's go ahead and put it on the bus here. And we can turn ground power off. And then we'll hop down here. Got our doors closed. Let's go ahead and disconnect. Let's take care of ground connections. Make sure that parking brake is on because it loves to pop itself off there. Go to ground connections. Remove the pitot covers. Disconnect the ground power and remove the chocks. And then we'll use the pushback feature on here, so I'll just set that up real quick. We need to push back with the nose to the left, but we're only going to turn it about 30 degrees. I think that'll be right. I'm certain somehow I'll mess that up, but actually I want the nose to go to the right. I'm going to do the nose to the right. Whoops. 30 there. My bad. 30 degrees, nose to the right. Straight length distance is going to be 50. I don't really know what it should be, but there you have it. That's ready to go. So now we've got the APU up and running. We've got everything on the APU. Let's go ahead and get those lights on there. And let's take a look at our push and start checklist. Passenger boarding is completed. The passenger doors are closed and locked. We have clearance for push. Throttles are in the idle position and the start levers are off. Packs need to come off. That's these two right here. You gotta right click them, not left click them. Right click them to the off position. APU is running. Bleed air pressure is checked. That's this guy right here. Fuel pumps all on. Anti-collision light is on. Parking brake, we're not going to release it quite yet. And then it goes into completing pushback, ground crew ready for start, all of that good stuff. So basically we're ready to start the aircraft now. It's a very simple process. You can see we've got our ignition on the left starter. I think I pretty much always use the left starter now. I used to use both. I've explained in a previous video, probably in the full flight tutorial, that you can actually use either or both. So we're good on that. We're ready to push. Let's go ahead and start the pushback.
And ground, cockpit.
Go ahead, Captain.
We're all set to go up here. We've been cleared to push and start at your discretion.
Roger that, ready for push. Power and air are clear, doors closed. We are ready for pushback. Please parking brake, please.
Release the brake.
Okay, parking brake is off, cleared to push.
Waiting on you, buddy.
Brakes off, here we go.
Wow, that took forever. Okay, so we're going to start with engine number 2. Click it over to ground, left click it once. Let's pop this bad boy up for you. You can see the start valve is now open. We should have the low pressure light. We're watching the N2 to get to 25 or higher. And when it does, then we'll go ahead and introduce fuel into the system. I don't know how well you can see that there. Let me pop it up so you can see it better. There's 22, 3, 4, and 5. When the switch clicks off, the start valve open light will go away. Low oil pressure will go away here in a little bit. And we'll be good to go. And it'll be the same thing for engine number 1. So I'm hoping I got that pushback right. We'll see. Probably not, but with the default scenery, see that's yeah, that wasn't very. That's all right. We'll be able to make the turn.
Brakes are set and pressure's normal.
Okay, sir. Tow bar is off. Pin is out. Watch the pin on the right.
Anyway, with
all
default
right, guys,
scenery,
thanks. You're cleared to disconnect. We will be watching for the pin and the release from guidance on the right side of the airplane, and we'll see you guys next time through.
Roger that. Have a good one.
alright. With the default scenery, it doesn't lay out quite the same as the actual airport, so I do look forward to hopefully getting the actual scenery for this. I also want to make a quick note. My GSX, I reinstalled, but it's not working. I looked and looked in the forums. I finally found a thread that said, hey, if your menu's not popping up, but it does show GSX, that means, I forget what it says. It's a known problem or something like that, and the only solution is to reinstall P3D. Okay, I'm not going to rant about it right now, but that's ridiculous. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so let's go ahead and start engine number 1. Same thing, left click over to ground. Looking for 25 on our N2 over here. Really nothing to say while we're waiting for it to get to 25, is there? There's 3, 4, and 5. Introduce the fuel to the system. Notice that we're not using the lower display here because I've got the side-by-side setup. I just went ahead and did that just for something a little bit different. There's several different options for setups in here. I did not check if this was a verified setup for this particular airline. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but I went in and changed it a little bit anyway because, hey, I wanted to do something different. So there you have it. Now we're just going to wait for this engine to stabilize. Listen for the click of the starter. That'll be right now. Right when it hits about 56 on the N2, start valve open light goes out. And the engine is stabilizing, and that'll take us right into our after start checklist. So first things first, engine generators need to come on. That's these two here. Left click each of those. I always call it sending the power back to the APU once that's done. Probe heat can come on. Now, my instinct is to just turn off the APU, but it comes later in the checklist, so we're going to go ahead and follow the checklist on this one. So probe heat comes on at this point. Anti-ice as required. We don't need it. Engine bleeds can go on. 1 and 2. Packs can go to auto now. Packs to auto. Isolation valve can go to auto. Right click that once to put it on the auto. APU bleed goes off. And now the APU switch goes off. So that's the order they have it in. I'll throw the taxi light on while I'm sitting here because that's what's next anyway. External lights. Master caution light needs to be off, and then check the recall. So master caution light is this one. Check the recall. Nothing on there. And that takes us into our taxi checklist. Taxi clearance is already obtained. Ground crew is clear. It tells us what our taxi speed should be. We'll check the brakes on our way out, and let's go ahead and set the flaps to flaps 5. And that's going to get us ready for taxi. So I'm going to make sure my track IR is working properly and all of that good stuff. And then we will start our taxi out and take care of that taxi and departure briefing. Alright, we got everything working, and I think I know where I'm going. Track iron's coming on here. Big jump. There we go. Alright, looking fantastic. So let's go ahead and take those brakes off. You know what? I want to double check, make sure A-Cars is running. Oh, let's see here. It is running, in fact, so that's fantastic. Let's go ahead and get that brake off. And let's swing her around here. And we are super light. Alright, as we're swinging around here, let's go ahead and take care of our taxi and departure briefings, please. Alright, let's take a look at this taxi and departure briefings really quick. We're down here at Echo 24, that's our gate. We pushed back not quite far enough, obviously, but we're going to just swing it around here and catch Alpha 13 over to Bravo and take that over to N2. And if we look at our larger view here, we can see that, in fact, I'll have to zoom it in here, zoom it down in. So N2, and then we'll cross over runway 2709 or 0927 onto Echo 6 here to hold short of runway 18 left. Now, let's see if I can get that centered up right. There we go. Our departure is going to be on 122, ATIS, I'm sorry, is on 122.205. ATC operational information on 131.355, clearance delivery on 121.980. That looks like it says planner on 121.655, ground, there's a whole bunch of them there, same for tower, same for departure. And then there's some information here about arriving aircraft and so on. The only other thing I really want to concern ourselves with is the hotspot 2 here. It says when taxiing on November 2 to the beginning of runway 18 left, that's the route we're taking up Echo 6, do not turn right onto runway 9. Be sure to have a clearance before continuing across or before crossing runway 927. When taxiing to runway 18 left on Echo 6, do not turn on to N2. I'm sorry, on Echo 5, do not turn on to N2. Okay, so that's just a hot spot there. People probably tend to make a right turn onto the actual runway here instead of continuing on the taxiway up to here. Let's take a look at this departure briefing now. It's going to be the REND 1E departure for us today, and for the most part this is pretty straightforward. So we're using runway 18, so 183 degrees is our departure heading, and we're going to climb out here until we reach a minimum of 500 feet, I think is what it is. Yeah, it says down here, warning, runway 18 left, early autopilot connection might result in turn initiation below 500. If applicable, continue on 183 degree track beyond distance 3.1 SPL to prevent turning below 500 feet. So basically we're going to fly out here until we reach 500 feet or 3.1 SPL, whichever comes later, right? Yeah, something like that. Anyway, and then we'll make a left-hand turn to 093 degrees. Follow this guy out to Ivlet. Is it Ivlet? No, I think we follow out to SPL. 18.5 from SPL, and then to Ivlet, and on to Lunix, and Rendy, and then Edupo is how it looks like that's pronounced. Transition altitudes at 3,000 feet. It says remain on the tower frequency until passing 2,000 feet, then contact Schiphol departure. Departure instructions refer to 10-3B. We're not going to worry about that. Departure is going to be on 119.055. Elevation for the airport is negative 11 feet. It does require a minimum climb gradient. We don't need to worry about that because we've got plenty of power to make that climb gradient. And then this is just the routing in text format down here, which we've already talked about. So pretty much good to go on all that. Keep in mind max speed of 220 knots till we get past here, and then out here it's a max of 250 knots below flight level 100, and so until we get above 10,000 we stay below 250. That's pretty typical, and that is your departure briefing. Alright guys, we got our holding short of the runway here. Let's take a look at our before takeoff checklist. We could have done the down to the line while taxiing out, but we didn't. So Let's make sure the master caution light is off, which it is. Recall needs to be checked, and any messages cleared. Flight controls have been checked. Flaps are set to 5. We can verify that both here and down here. We could zoom over there, but I know it's on 5. Trim is checked and set. It's supposed to be 5.89, I believe it was, and 8.7 was as close as we could get, so that's what we're going to go with. Flight directors are on. Takeoff briefing has been completed in this case. Takeoff clearance has been obtained. Strobe lights, all our lights need to come on. That's the wrong button. We need landing lights, runway turn-off lights, taxi lights can stay on, strobe lights can go to strobe and steady, anti-collision are on. I don't really know what the wheel well lights are, but we'll turn them on anyway. Auto throttle needs to be armed at this point. There we go, arming the auto throttle, and I'm going to jump over here real quick and just make sure that I have my, departure briefing up. The sound doesn't quite stay the same when I change windows. It's supposed to stay on, but it doesn't always. Anyway, what else? Transponder needs to go TARA. There we go. And we are ready to rock and roll, guys. Track hour coming on, big jump here. There we go. Oh, I got to adjust in my seat. Okay, fantastic. I don't think I put the brake on. No, I did not. So let's go ahead and get a little throttle in there. And let's move her out on the runway and get started. You may have noticed, I don't know if you did or not, maybe some of you did, the barrel is set to 5, or the radio altimeter is set to 500 feet down there, and that's because, as you noted in that departure briefing, we must be at least 500 feet before we can start our turn. And so I went ahead and I put it down there in the radio altimeter just as a reminder, 500 feet before starting the turn. Alright, one of the things I love about P3D version 4, I don't know how it is in the other versions, but I love how the clouds cast shadows as they move around. You see that shadow moving along there as that cloud's moving. I think that's awesome, I really do. Almost lost all our speed there. Alright, let's get her lined up. Did lose all our speed there, didn't we? There we go. That wasn't the best taxi on that I've ever done. Let's go ahead and get those throttles to about 40%. Let them start to come up and stabilize a little bit. There we go. Get in the center and hit toga. Take off. Remember, we're using takeoff 2. D-rated thrust, which is plenty for our needs today, that's for sure. There's 80 knots. V1 and rotate will pretty much be together.
V1.
V1.
V2.
I thought I had it set up so that somebody told me why both of those are on. It must still have the V1 on in the FMC or something like that. Either way, up and away we go. Remember, we don't start our turn until we hit 500 feet, which we're almost there already. And of course we follow that flight director anyway, but we're over 500 feet now, so we can make the turn. And up into the clouds we go. Boy, this thing really wants you to climb fast, doesn't it? Alright, she's looking good right now. Should start to reduce thrust here shortly. Maybe. Maybe not. And on that turn there, boy, it really wants to climb. But that turn looked a lot closer, didn't it, on that map view? Looks to me like we're past it, so we can start the turn. Let's go ahead and start our turn here. We're definitely past it, so I'm going to take flaps to 2. We never did arm LNAV and VNAV, did we? Let's arm those right now. That's my bad. Flaps 1. And there's transition altitude there, guys. So let's go ahead and go to standard. And let's bring those flaps up. Still wants to increase speed, that's for sure. And keep it below 250 knots until we get above 10,000 feet. Oh, it just froze up on me, didn't it? It did not like that at all. I hope it unfreezes. Oh, there we go. I thought it was going to stay frozen. That would have been bad. Start making our turn on course here. Get that speed up just a little bit more. Watching that speed, want to make sure we don't go above 250. That's where it wants us to get to, those 250 knots. Alright, she's looking pretty good, guys. You know what I just realized? I never brought the gear up. How insane is that? Unbelievable. Autopilot coming on. Wow. I cannot believe I'm blown away. I'm absolutely blown away. I left the gear down until we got to 5,000 feet, you guys. Oh, I feel like an idiot. I left the gear down. Ooh, I wonder what the maximum landing gear retraction speed is. Track higher coming off here. Oh, wow. I know somebody was screaming at the screen right now, going, "Your gear's down, your gear's down." I can't believe I left the landing gear down. I just can't believe it. I didn't. I'm a soup sandwich all of a sudden. I didn't change this page. This is supposed to be over on the legs page. This one's supposed to be on the takeoff page, right? Which doesn't matter now. We can put it on legs page. We'll put that on progress. I cannot believe I left the landing gear down until we got above 5,000 feet. Like, I'm astounded at myself right now. That's unbelievable. But whatever, it is what it is. I can't change it now. Landing gear is up now. Let's go and get the landing lights off. Wow, I'm just blown away. Let's take care of this after takeoff checklist. Unbelievable. Positive rate of climb gear was supposed to come up. It's up now. We definitely had a positive rate of climb. No wonder it was struggling to get the speed up there. So the gear is up. Flaps have been retracted. Gear is off now. Auto brakes need to go off. I'm still blown away that I did that. And engine starters never came on. Where is engine starters? There it is, engine start switches. These were supposed to go to continuous, and then they're supposed to go off now. I really messed up that entire departure, you guys. I just absolutely just blew that one away. That was junk. But it is what it is. My apologies for those of you who are stressed out about that, but hey, we make mistakes sometimes, right? So let's go ahead. You know, we got to take care of that obligatory elevator music, so let's do that. Alright guys, we're going to be on our top of descent here in no time. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to scroll down my MCP altitude just so we don't miss that descent point. Take it down to 19,000 just for the moment. Now I haven't done the arrival briefing yet. That's because I got sidetracked and realized I was almost at the top of descent, so my apologies. So we'll roll into the arrival briefing, followed immediately by the approach briefing after we start the descent here. But let's take care of our descent checklist. Speed will be monitored. We need to set minimums. So minimums for us, we're going to use radio because when you see the approach brief, you'll see that I can't find minimum altitude on the circle to land portion of the charts. And just watch for that in the approach briefing. You'll see what I'm talking about. So we're going to use the radio altimeter set to 200 feet for our missed approach, or for our minimums altitude. Okay, so let me get that set. There we go. Then everything else is pretty straightforward. You know, once we get below 10,000, you know, setting a transition altitude, all of that stuff. So right now what I want to do is I want to roll directly into our arrival briefing, and then immediately following the arrival briefing we'll take care of the approach briefing. Okay, it's going to be the Nanit 1A arrival for us today, and we're going to be entering the arrival. I don't know how do you put that. We're going to be transitioning onto the arrival at Tulsi at or above 9,500 feet. From there, it's 157 degrees down to the Rattenberg NDB, which is RTT. It doesn't give us an altitude there. If we're coming in anywhere else, you can see there's definitely some higher altitude restrictions here, but from RTT, we're going to be on to our approach at that point, so there's really nothing else to brief as far as the arrival is concerned. The ATIS is going to be 126.025 with an airport elevation of 1,907 feet. Altitude, it says set HPA. Transition level is by ATC, meaning that there's no set transition level. ATC will give it to you. And then that's when you're at transition level. So RNAV required, no problem there. GNSS required, no problem there. Non-RNAV aircraft would expect radar vectors to find an approach. That's not going to be an issue for us. So that takes care of our arrival briefing. Alright, so the approach briefing then, and this is really why we fly into Innsbruck, isn't it? Because of the unusual approach in this tight valley. And specifically for us, hold on, Captain Mac cough here. Specifically for us, we've got we're going to fly the localizer DME East approach, but we're going to transition to the visual approach circling around to runway 8. So we'll get to that in a minute. But let's start out with your standard approach brief. ATIS is on 126.025. Innsbruck radar or approach is on 119.275. Innsbruck tower on 120.1. The localizer, OEV, which is how we're going to fly the initial part of our approach, is 111.1. And then if you continue this one all the way in, your final approach course is 255 degrees. We will not be doing that. Minimum altitude at distance 19.0 from OEV is 9,500 feet. MDA, it says refer to minimums. We'll get to that here in a minute. And then airport elevation is at 1,907 feet with the runway at 1,894 feet. The missed approach procedure is not applicable to us because we're not actually going to fly this approach all the way in. Alright, so when we look at visual straight in, this is all landing information for runway 26. Circle to land, it says with prescribed flight tracks, and then it says for flight visibility and all that, it says C19 TAC 10, which we're going to take a look at here in just a second. Other than that, I don't think there's really anything else we need to worry about on here, but just real quick, out at the NDB will be at 9,500. It's at or above 9,500. And then when we get to FF26, which is 19 nautical miles from OEV, okay, OEV is the, come on, brain function, the VOR over on the airfield, okay, so at 19 miles, that's FF26, we're still at 9,500, but we can start our descent from there, and it is a rather steep descent. It's 3.79 degrees. Down to LOC 17, which is 17 miles out, and we can be at 8,700 feet there. And then LOC 14, we can be at 7,500 feet. You can see the whole point here is to keep us from hitting the mountains, right? And then all the way down here, continuing that descent down to 5,500 at 90 LOC, or which is distance 9.0, and then down to OEV distance 6.3, which is ML26. Is that making sense to everybody so far? I hope it is. 4,400 feet there. Okay, so that's our descent. Now when we get to ML26, that's where we're going to break off from this approach, and we're going to go to the visual approach circling around. And I'm going to zoom this in so that you can see it better. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see that just fine. So this is the visual approach procedure following the instrument approaches for 11 TAC1, TAC2, TAC4, and 12 TAC20. We were looking at 11 TAC1 just a minute ago, the localizer GME East approach. So this is the visual approach following that, and you can see here, distance 4.2 OEV, that is our ML26, and that's where we're going to make a left turn to 230 degrees and head towards the mountains. Now it does say 3,700 feet here. I believe that's our minimum altitude, and I already know that I'm going to end up a little below that because I kind of messed this up just a little. We landed it fine, but I didn't quite fly this approach properly. What I did is I turned a little early in here and actually was pointed right at the church. So just keep in mind the right way to fly this approach is to continue until you're just over the base of that mountain there. Keep in mind that all of this terrain here is higher than the airfield, quite a bit higher in fact. All right. But once we get out here, you make a right turn, and again, I was just a little bit inside this track, and that's my bad. But you want to stay at 3,700 feet here, and that's where I kind of messed up, because instead of staying at 3,700 feet, I was descending a little through here, right? And so if I had been over here, I would have hit the terrain. So that's my bad, but overall, we didn't do too bad. We just turned a little inside this and descended to about 3,400, I believe. But anyway, once you get to the church, and the church is in the scenery, okay, which is fantastic. You should be over here at 3.5 from OEV. You should just see the church there, and then you start making your turn. You turn around the back side of the church, swing it all the way around, and because we're going to be flying nice and slow, we'll level off just briefly here, make a base leg out of it, and then continue our turn around here, and then on in from there. Taking a look at our information down here, visual approach after 11 TAC1, which is the one we took a look at. Having established effective external visual reference between 6.3 and 4.4 from OEV and OEJ, right? So that's out here, in between here. And missed approach point, and the missed approach point. The flight shall be continued with visual reference either straight into runway 26, not for us, or onto a right-hand circuit to runway 8. Prescribed minimum flight visibility shall be observed during the visual part of the procedure. So in other words, we need to have proper visibility to be able to see where we're going. And then it tells us here, visual cue, church axons for start of right base. Cough coming up here. Excuse me. All right, so didn't mean to zoom that out. Let's try and scroll it down here and take a look at our circle to land with prescribed flight track. So this gives us our minimums information, which I kind of messed up and didn't actually read everything on here before. Okay, but basically what we have here, this is our missed approach climb gradient minimums, okay, and if we got a climb gradient of 5%, then our missed decision altitude is 3,700 feet, which we can hit a 5% climb gradient without any problem. Okay, and then I'm looking for my runway visual range. It doesn't actually give that, it just gives flight visibility. So you got to have for category A and B aircraft, you have to have 3,000 meters, and then for category C aircraft, it should be us if I'm not mistaken. I'm always kind of mess up on these categories, but anyway, it should be 5,000 meters visibility, which we will have. For ground visibility and ceiling requirements, see 10 TAC1P pages, and for special notes, see those as well. We don't need to really dig into those. We've got decent weather, and we should be fine today. So a lot going on there. Again, I did mess it up just a little bit coming in there. I do apologize for that. But, you know, hey, we make mistakes, and that's why it's flight sim, right? So we can learn from it. But just keep in mind, if you're flying this approach, you want to make sure you get out until you're just over the base of this mountain, maintain 3,700. I descended below that a little bit, and you'll see that when we actually fly it here in a few minutes. But it didn't hurt us too bad. We had great visibility, and so we were still able, as we got down here, I kind of made a little left turn so I could get to this side of the church and make the proper turn here. So it worked out pretty well for us, but just for your reference, keep that in mind. You want to make sure that you get out over the base of the mountain here at 3,700. Okay, I think that's enough talking about that. What do you say we go fly this approach? Alright guys, into the mountains we go. We're past Tulsi at this point. We're on our way to RTT. You can see we're reducing speed now. I set that up in the FMC to reduce to 220 by the time we get to RTTNB. So that's what we're working on right now. We're going to hit that, and then into the valley we go. And we're going to try and not make a complete mess of this thing. Now, let's take care of our arrival and approach checklist here. Destination runway's been selected. It's going to be runway 8. The wind is 0103 knots. Altimeter 29904. You may note from the arrival briefing that transition altitude is determined by ATC. So we're going to go ahead with transition at come on, brain function. Basically, when we hit 9,500, we're going to go ahead and consider that our transition altitude. All right. Let's see. Approach in FMC as required. We do need to take care of our approach VREF. Not selected yet, no surprise there. So hit initial reference. We're going to do full flaps, 126 knots, because I don't want to mess it up. So 126 will be our landing ref speed, and our approach speed will be VREF plus 5, so 131. Let's see the approach checklist. The approach is selected and brief. Nav radios need to be set for the approach. We need to be on 111.1 for the localizer. 111.1, switch that one over here, and we'll put it on this one too, just to be safe. It's not an ILS, right? 10, there we go. Okay, that is set now. Approach intercept at 180 will be probably well below that by the time we make our turn. Auto brakes need to be set. I don't remember runway length off the top of my head, but let's go ahead and use auto brake 2, because we'll probably be coming screaming in fast, because you know I'm liable to mess it up. Auto spoilers armed. Shift and tab for me, that's how I have it set up. You can see I got the terrain mode turned on here so that we don't hopefully run into any mountains. Engine start switches to continuous. I messed that up on the departure. Let's not mess it up here. And then it's just, you know, gear down, flaps, all that stuff. So basically a landing checklist at that point. So into the mountains we go here. We're not quite low enough for the terrain to actually be an issue yet. We're just waiting for our speed to get down a little bit further here. So let's go to legs page over here real quick. Let me pop this up for you. Legs page. So at or above 9,500 at RTT. What is it? RTTNB. I guess that means nav beacon, but RTT. So down to 9,500. We got to be 9,500 at FF26 as well, and so it's just taking its time getting down to 9,500, and then from there it's 87, 75, 55, and 44, and all of those. Now, the right way to do it, as you guys know, is to adjust it as you go. Right? We don't adjust below a given altitude until we get there. However, I'm doing the work of two pilots for one, and for two it's a simulator, so it's a little bit of a pain in the butt. I'm not saying I can't do it, but instead I'm going to allow the FMC to control my vertical speeds or my vertical descent for me, and that's why I've gone ahead and set it at 4,400. Now, here's the catch. Alright, these all say at or above, alright, but I would rather have them as hard altitudes so that we're not above them all, right? So what I can do is, we don't need them all to be. Let's just say we want 90 loc to be 5,500 on the nose, right? We don't want it to be at or above. So we'll say 055, since it's a flight level over here. Wow, it just froze up for a second there. It's probably scenery loading in. So we want it hard at 055. Execute that, and then we want this one hard at 044, which it is, right? So it's not at or above, it's at, period. So that's what we wanted at 055, and that's going to make sure that as far as the FMC is concerned, it's going to say, okay, we are going to be at 5,500 here, and we can do the same thing for loc 14 just to make sure. So we want 075 hard altitude. Execute that. It keeps telling me no descent path. That's fine. I'm not worried about that. There's 10,000 feet. Let's get the landing lights on. Fantastic. And let's go ahead and we'll set our altimeter now. I've already set it, so it's 29904. As far as it's concerned, we haven't actually hit transition level yet. That's all right. Because again, it's given by ATC, and boy, did they model this beautifully, didn't they? Look at this coming into the valley here. Looks fantastic. All right. So remember, when we get down to ML26, we have to make that left-hand turn to, and let me just pull it up over here because I gotta have my chart over here for this approach. We gotta make that left-hand turn to 230 degrees, and then it's visual from there, keeping in mind, and I'm assuming, considering that this is a well-done scenery by Orbix, that steep descent after FF26, not really. Let me bring some spoilers in here. Our speed's getting a little hot. Let's go ahead and get that first setting of flaps in as well. There we go. And let's take control of the speed here. Speed intervention. I don't want it at 176 yet. I want it at 200. Spoilers coming back out. We can go flaps 2. Right? Flaps 2. Yep, flaps 2. Let's rearm those spoilers. And there's our valley there. So I'm assuming that the church is modeled in here. Now I don't know if we'll actually be able to see it, but the visual cue church axons is the start point of the right base. So we'll see how it goes. I'll try not to mess this one up, guys. I know somebody's gonna be like, oh, this is easy, I've done this 1,000 times. Hey, good for you. Congratulations. Boy, they did a nice job on the scenery, huh? I love how we're just below the clouds there, and that looks absolutely gorgeous, doesn't it? I really need to get, there's a program that sort of does what FS Recorder does, but it does it for P3D, and I'd really like to get that, but it is a payware program, whereas FS Recorder was free. And some of the stuff I've read on it, it's got some issues that haven't quite been dealt with yet, but it looks like the developer is dealing with those. So, assuming that those will be dealt with, I look forward to hopefully grabbing that in the near future. So, let's bring that speed down a wee bit more here. We'll bring it down to 180 at this point. There we go. Throw in another setting of flaps there, flaps 5. That'll help slow us down a little bit. And we're almost, as you can see, to ML26 already. So, and again, that's why I was letting the aircraft do it. It's going to make the right-hand turn for us to 230 degrees. Right there. And then we're going to turn off the autopilot and try not to make a mess of things. Keeping in mind, what is it, 126? Yep, 126 is our VREF speed. So, track IR coming on here, big jump. There we go. There's runway 26 dead ahead. Let's let her fly out here a little bit. Fantastic. 4,400 feet is what we're going to stick with for the moment. Turn into 230 degrees, and I'm sitting just a wee bit too far back here. There we go. Now we can see what we're doing. Alright, guys. I'm not going to lie. A little nervous here. Alright, so we're basically going to fly it up into the gap here, and then we're going to follow this mountain down here, and we're going to be looking for that church. Now, again, the approach doesn't actually give me any descents. It doesn't tell me what altitude to be at or anything like that. Obviously, we're going to have to descend a little bit. So we're going to try really, really hard not to mess this up. Let's go ahead and bring that speed down a little bit more. Bring it down around 160. And we can throw in flaps 10, and then we'll get gear down before we make that turn. But we're looking good right now. We're gonna have to take the autopilot off here, so autopilot's coming off. We're gonna leave the auto throttle on. I'm gonna use that for now. All right, looking good. And I tried to set this waypoint here, right at the point where we should start our turn. So, we should be good on that. It's looking like we probably need to start that turn kind of right now, actually. I think I was off a little bit. Yeah, we definitely need to turn here because we want to be along the side of the mountain there, right? Which one's the terrain inhibit here? Come on. Oh, you're killing me. You can't do that and fly at the same time. There, terrain inhibit. That way it doesn't keep saying terrain to us, right? Why are you climbing? We don't want to climb. No climbing. Okay. So there's the runway down there. Let's go ahead and bring that speed back down. Let's go 140 for the moment. Get the gear down. And the next setting of flaps coming in. So I don't actually know where this church is.
Gear down.
Nice slow descent here. Looking good. It should be somewhere up in here. I'm guessing. I'll bet you the church is like right there. Descending just a little quick. There we go. A little bit of trim in there. Looking good. There's our airfield back there. Follow the mountains here. Let's go ahead and let's bring that speed all the way down. 131. Yeah, that's going to be our church right there. It's going to be our church. So we actually turn just as we pass it. So we're probably a little low right now, to be honest with you. Get those flaps all the way in. Yep, that's our church right there, guys. So we're going to circle around the other side of it. So we should have been just a little higher and a little closer to the mountain. So that's probably going to cause us some issues. But it is what it is. So, alright. Almost on the church there. Looking fantastic. Yeah, see, so we would need to be able to see that church. So this turn's going to be a little tighter than expected, but it is what it is. We'll continue with the auto throttle. And we need to start descending a little here. Just a little. That's a lot.
500.
Come on. Okay, that's our base. And let's continue our turn. And we're actually looking pretty good as far as our glide slope goes. Maybe just a little high. Not too bad, guys. Not too bad. Right down over the hill there. Just a little high. Oh, you guys got to give me a little love for that one, huh? Got to give me a little love for that one. Look at that. That was pretty damn good. Darn good. I shouldn't have said that. Darn good. I try to watch my mouth on here. Alright, auto throttle's off now. Alright, looking good. A little high on our descent right there. Fantastic. That wasn't too bad at all, guys. Come on down, baby. Doesn't want to descend now. Just a little too much throttle in there was all. Alright. Listen to those call outs. Little high.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Little float. I'm not even pulling on it. There we go. That was a little hard on the landing. A little hard on the landing. I got a little too high. 60 knots. Auto brakes off. Nice. Let's turn the APU on real quick. Fantastic. Put those off. What do you guys think, huh? Not too bad, right? That's my first time landing here in proper scenery. I've landed here before with some crazy weather in the 757 where we had to do a go-round. But this is the first time landing here with proper scenery. Those flaps all the way up. Some standing water there, that's pretty cool. Swing her around. taxi back to this first taxiway, and then we'll take care of this. We'll bring her to a stop and take care of the after landing checklist real quick. Oh man, that was awesome. I enjoyed that. I got to do that again soon. That was really cool, guys. A lot of fun doing that. I think we did just about right. We were a little too far to the right. We should have been a little closer to the mountain and therefore a little bit higher so that we could clearly see that church and turn around the other side of it. But when we came around the corner there, boy, we were just about spot on with glide slope. We got just a little high, and that made for... That's really what caused me to float on the landing, because we got a little high, so I started descending a little fast. And by doing that, I kind of pulled a little hard on the yoke as we came into flare. So it caused a bit of a float, my bad. I haven't even looked at the... let's see what, as it rolls to a stop here, let me look at the landing rate here. The landing rate was actually minus 87, so it was a good landing rate. Alright, let me see here. Track hour coming off, big jump. There we go, and as she rolls to a stop, let's take a look at this after landing checklist. The speed brake lever is up, flaps are up, probe heat needs to come off. That's way up here, probe heat. Probe heat is now off. Engine start switches are off, landing lights can come off. Taxi lights will stay on. Strobe light goes off. What else? Flight director's off. That'll also get rid of our warnings there. Master caution, and then APU's already been started, and transponder goes to standby. And I'm going to taxi it in here, guys, and once we get taxied in, we'll take care of shutting down the aircraft and offloading passengers. So I'll see you guys back here in just a second. Alright, we got us parking space here, guys. Let's go ahead and take care of this shutdown and secure checklist. The parking brakes are on. Start levers can be cut off. 1 and 2, both off right there. Ground power needs to come on at this point. We'll hop down here and take care of that. Go to your menu and FS Actions, Ground Connections. Put the wheel chocks in, connect the ground power there. And what does it say? Just connect it? No, it says turn it on. So let's turn it on. And that means we can send those back over there. We don't need those anymore. Doors and stairs get opened at this point. Again, down here. Go back to your doors page. Open the main door. Maybe not. Why'd the power all cut out? Ground power on. There we go. That was weird. Thought I had it on, I guess not. Doors. That's open. Open the air stairs. Fantastic. Let's see what comes next. Fuel pumps can all go off. That's not a fuel pump. That's a fuel pump. I'm just all over the place today. Cabin utilities off. That's actually this guy up here, the galley. We'll turn that one off. That's also IFE passengers. Signs can go off at this point. Off. Call the attendant, let her know. Window heats can all come off. You know, let's jump back up to this overhead view here. Window heats off. 3 and 4. Probe heat's already off. Electric hydraulics off. That's these two in the middle. All bleeds go off. That's the engine bleeds there. Those are both off. Captain Mac cough for you. Isolation valve gets closed. And that's right click to go all the way up. Recirc fan to auto. It's still there. External lighting all off. I didn't turn the taxi lights off as I pulled in again because I'm just terrible about that. Anti-collision off. All of those go off. Fantastic. Emergency exit lights off. Right click and right click to turn off. And then battery off, and then ground power off. So right click, and then right click. And that should shut everything down. And that's going to wrap it up for this one, ladies and gentlemen. A flight by request, and this was an awesome request. Don't forget that Innsbruck is one of the hubs over at Mac Air, and if you don't have this Orbix scenery, well, I got to tell you, they did a beautiful job on it. It looks fantastic, and I really, really like it. So that was a neat approach. I appreciate the request on this one. I haven't flown in here in a while, and it was a good excuse to pick up the scenery. It was on sale, so hey, why not, right? I got it, what was it, like 40% off, 45% off. Really cool approach coming in over the mountains there. I really enjoy it, and I definitely want to get more flights in in to Innsbruck, into Innsbruck in the future. There's a lot of ins there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Don't forget to smash the subscribe button. Well over, what are we at, 5,200, almost 5,300 subscribers now. I'm greatly appreciative of every one of you. There's a useless view. You can still like us on Facebook. I do respond on Facebook. I haven't posted anything on there in a while, but I do respond on Facebook. If you message me there, feel free to do so. Several of you have, and I appreciate that communication. You can follow us on Twitter, and of course you can still follow us on Twitch at Captain Mac 3588. That's going to wrap it up for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, as always, keep the blue side up, unless otherwise instructed by ATC. God bless you all, and have a fantastic day.